Christian values, Zeus, Hades? What are we talking about? Because each one of these things comes with a set of beliefs that you have to wholeheartedly believe, or you are doing a disservice to be of a God. And as they would say in Islam, you are a slave of that God. This is your purpose. Your purpose is to spread the message. Your purpose is to do the will. Your purpose is to do the work. And that is your purpose. Your purpose is to smite thee who do not and will not repent. This is what it is. I think people want to divorce themselves of this reality because it's easier to live your life willy-nilly and against the codes and commandments or the rules and regulations of what you're reading. And you want to divorce yourself of that reality, but ultimately you can't. So either you're spiritual and you believe in something in the ether, you can't name it, you can't see it, you can't touch it. You know you want to, but you can't. Or you're telling me I believe in God. Okay, which God? Okay, well, I believe in Jesus and the Holy Spirit. Excellent. And you believe in the Bible. Okay, excellent. Let's have that conversation. So I believe that it is a system of control. It is a system of slavery. It is a system of taking the intelligence and the questioning of society and stifling it. And that is where I fall with that answer.
Do you see any of that as specific to religion, or do you think that there are other systems that follow that framework that you described? Like, I mean, whether it's politics or whether it's, you know, any other major institution. I mean, it's hard because religion is so big, right? And so it's hard to compare it to other institutions because there aren't many that are as big as and all permeating as religion. But do you see that system as religion specific?
Well, I think that when I look at religion, I think that religion was the first politics, and it was also the first business in a lot of ways. The church had a lot of influence over regional politics, how things were ran. It had a lot of influence over kings and queens and tax collection. I mean, you can date this back. We can read this in books and scrolls and papers. And I believe even today you can see people's religion, the influence of their God, directly oppressing other people. And I related this back again to Roe v. Wade. When you look at states like Utah, the Mormons predominantly run the Utah political system. They are oppressing people and they're hurting people because they want you to live in their antiquated view of how the world ought to be, not how they think it should be or how the public thinks it should be. So I think these systems are, again, these are not divorced. If you're telling me I'm of God and I'm in politics, then I think that these two systems are now married to each other. You've fused them because of your belief plus your career path. That's how I view it.
Live your life the way they want you to live it and give them 10% at the same time. And you're correct. How did they know about 10% back then? Because they were kings and queens. That's how. But just because you don't have to be religious to believe in God and Jesus. I'm not religious. When I believe in God and Jesus, I'm just spiritual. I do. It's just religion telling you that you can only believe in Jesus and God if you're religious, but that's a lie because that's the lie that they want to put out there so that you'll believe it.
So we're going to turn it over to Angela because she's been sitting waiting to jump in. I think her hand's been up the longest.
Definitely. I do actually want to say just real quick, a little factoid that's actually quick. That 10% is a carry, like that 10% notion, where they say a tenth, you should give a tenth to the church, like that notion, is actually is a carryover from the Torah, from the Bible's roots as part of Judaism. And
religion,
but believe it or not, that is actually something true that people do in Jewish culture, in synagogues and stuff. People give 10% of their wealth
because they're told to give it.
But here's the discrepancy between Christianity and Judaism. Christians were told for millennia, because most people couldn't read the damn Bible, that they have to give 10. But in reality, what it's supposed to do is the richest people that are part of the congregation give 10% of their earnings, so the church can then give it to the people the poorest who need it the most. It is that notion of 10% has been corrupted in a lot of Christian churches. So I just wanted to say that, just a little bit of Bible lore for anybody watching.
Yeah, exactly. It's just religion telling you need to give.
Sorry, Angela. My apologies.
Go ahead.
So this is where I come back to the same thing again. You know, religion is supposed to be separated from politics, yet we as human beings are not always able to separate our personal belief from what is right and good for everybody. I think that's why we supposedly are going by numbers when we elect people. that we're hoping that the majority will speak. You know, I do look at things from a scientific outlook. I look at things based on realities, what I see, what I know to understand, what I don't know, I try to educate myself about. I am constantly learning about things that I don't understand. And I do seek counsel from others so that I can learn and grow and try to embrace a better knowledge of what's going on in the world. But it's kind of like a bunch of individual clubs. And if you don't belong to my club, then, you don't salute God in a way that I think you're supposed to, then that's no good. And for me, that's where I'm not an atheist, although it kind of sounds like I'm hedging more toward Evan in the view from the Arch than anywhere else at this point, because I question the validity of what's there. I mean, I believe there's something that grounds us. I believe there's something that keeps us good. I know the other guy's going to pipe up again about everybody's potential good and evil. I get that. But it's a human compassion. What? You're shaking your head. Daniel, I don't know. You've run me over about 50 times. I'm about ready to check out. So go ahead.
No, I'm listening to you. I'm actually absolutely agreeing with you, Angela, because you're right. It's about a club, and it's which club is the right club. What if none of the clubs are the right club? Maybe it's all just a lie out there. I call it God Club. It's a bunch of people who have the same mindset and want to have their own set of rules, but everybody has their own set of rules. There's so many different rules out there. You should absolutely question that. I totally agree with you.
I think for myself, the whole goal, the reason why I broke my neck to try to get in here on time tonight, because this conversation was important to me. I wanted to hear from other people who have experience and knowledge about religion versus faith. For me, I tried to live by the edict to do right by people, and you believe what you need to believe to get through your life. And as long as you're not hurting me or my family, I'm going to respect that. Just like Roe v. Wade and all the other stuff out there. As long as you're not hurting somebody else, what you do in your life pretty much is your business.
And that is the most American of ideals.
I mean, is that wrong?
Not at all. The problem is that as you, Angela, have probably experienced in your own life, given you are older than me and have lived more than me.
Thank you. That's kind.
Wow.
You don't look a day over 35. Don't even worry about it.
Thank you. You're very sweet. That's why the lights are dim.
But to be fair, it is the people. This is why I bring it back to what I said at the top of this conversation. It is a culture issue. It is less about, like, I have no problem with the church up the road from where I live. They have a food pantry that's free to anybody to take anything they need in as much quantity as they need. They have a composter that is free for the public to use. They have a little black box that they let people do shows in and stuff, and they let people use the space for free and stuff. It is by all means a very, very good congregation of Christians that I don't know their denomination off the top of my head, that is following the tenets of being a pillar of the community and helping and being good. I saw a video of a pastor saying that if you vote Democrat, you're a demon. Now, listen, I know this isn't a political thing, and I don't know the politics of the people present, but I'm just saying, I question the tax status of one versus the other, and I would probably say the culture at the First Church is probably a group of people that I would get along very well with. And because they are welcoming, they don't exclude people for being other. They don't have their help or their assistance in the community contingent on you meeting certain, in their opinion, moral guidelines and aesthetics. and the other one would probably take one look at me and like, oh, he looks fine, and then I open my mouth, and then they're like, oh, I want to stone him, but it's not legal. I guess it comes down to culture, and my thing is that when it comes to a Christian conservative culture, is the reason why religion or religious conservative culture. Let's be real, because there's plenty of people in the Muslim community, in the Hindi community, that are leaving their faiths too because of the oppressive, demeaning, and very cruel-natured culture that surrounds it. I would probably if I went to a church like the one up the street, I would probably be here defending my religion, my faith.
See, I guess that's the thing. That I agree with that, because I've had that experience where I've seen really great things come from churches of people that are just genuinely good human beings, that just want to do right by the community that they live in. They want to take care of their elderly. They want to take care of the children. That is what I long for. I don't long for the dogma of you've got to be in confession. How many years or decades has it been since your last? I know I would twist, okay? I get that. For the sins I've committed in life, I'm quite positive I would twist.
I'm a firm believer in the dyed hair test. If you look into a congregation at Sunday Mass, and you see people with dyed, if you see a grown man or a grown woman or a couple, if you see at least 3 or 4 people with dyed hair that aren't teenagers and they're grown adults, odds are probably pretty cool place to go to church at. Because if you see a rainbow flag on any of the congregation members. Now, this is not me commenting on the nature of these issues, whether of sexuality, gender, but what I'm saying is that judgmental spaces don't normally allow for people that either are this way or express themselves in certain ways, whether it be they're expressing themselves as part of the alphabet mafia or expressing themselves as like goth, alternative, or things of that nature. Generally, those types of people don't feel comfortable expressing themselves in certain ways within the confines of a congregation, especially
and don't be around those people. Yeah, if you have a problem expressing yourself, then don't be around those people. And Angela, you didn't do any sins. You didn't do anything wrong. You just live in a world that has laws and all that stuff. They're just telling you that you sin, but you don't.
I'm pretty sure I rode the sin wagon for a long time.
Yeah, sin is just their rules, and when you're sinning, you're breaking their rules. But if you don't live under their law, then you're not sinning at all, are you?
Wait, did I miss? I might have missed something. So, and this is just for Daniel. So, Daniel, are you saying that when somebody says you're sinning or you have sinned, you're saying those are man laws?
Yes, they are. That's not God laws, because God didn't create laws. God didn't create rules. Man created rules. Man created law. Kings and queens created those laws and rules. Not God. God doesn't command us. God doesn't judge us. We judge ourselves 1,000 times a day. Why does he need to do it once more? Because he just doesn't. Because God didn't create the Bible either, because the Bible is also created by men who wanted to have control and power over people. They want to tell you how to live your life the way they want you to live it. They have to tell you 10 stories just to prove one point.
Right.
Because it's not real.
But at that point is I feel like we're just nailing the just like.
Yeah, absolutely. Evan, you just called yourself other. You know what I call you? Evan.
But I think that's the concerning part. 'Cause like that's not true, right? Like the 10 Commandments
is not true.
The
7 out of the 10 Commandments are what you should do to not piss God off. I like George Carlin's kind of like summation of it is like
absolutely
of just down to don't be a dick.
Them telling you that's religion telling you this is what you shouldn't do to piss off God. But again, it's religion telling you.
But okay, but Daniel, so if we're gonna have to flex the knowledge here, In Exodus and Deuteronomy, who handed down the Ten Commandments to Moses?
No one did, because that's all
That-
fake. It's
no,
all a story.
The
The
opposite
Bible
says
is
we
not
shouldn't
real.
judge. God should be the one
Slow
judging
down,
us.
slow down.
Then
That's
you
not
went
true.
to a good
already
church, Uriah.
slow. You're the one that's getting excited. I'm slow. I'm telling you, it's
I'm
not real.
Okay.
The Bible is a book of lies and deception to control you. That's all it is for.
Right, but it's like but Daniel, you have to like I am a social democrat. I believe in fundamentally changing the economic systems we live in.
Oh, Democrat, Republican.
I literally work at a job where I am building a product that is going to put more people in debt but I hate it and it goes against everything in my beliefs. But we exist in a system that we live in, and I have to pay bills. So, and I say that to say this. Yes, every single thing that you have just said about the Bible is 110% right, and I 100% agree. And three states are currently looking at their anti-sodomy laws. I like, yes, you're right, but but the Bible is important to talk about, and us as atheists generally do have some Bible knowledge, not because we believe in it, but because there are wackos in power that think it is as important, if not more so, than the actual Constitution we live
and you
under.
hit it right on the nail, Evan, because you said there's wackos in power.
Right, but just because you don't like a system doesn't mean you can't participate in it. Voting may not seem like it always works, but if you don't participate in it, changes never happen. You have to participate in systems that you abhor if that's the life you live, unfortunately.
But we also know that the party system doesn't work, because they talk about the left and the right, but the left and
we're getting away. But
I'm just making a point that the left and the right are on the same bird.
I'm sorry, views from the arch.
No, you're good. But
I cut you off.
You were
what I was saying is like this is kind of the like divorcing of, and again, I don't know who in here believes in the Bible and who doesn't. You don't have to answer me. What I'm saying though is that people who say they believe in God, you have to tell me what book you're looking at, because you can't.
I don't have to tell you what good, because the Bible and religion indoctrinated God.
Daniel, we're on the same point.
Specifically talking about you.
Yeah.
We're on the same side here, dude.
Yeah. I'm not talking about you exactly. What I'm saying though is when people tell me I believe in God, I always ask them, okay, what book would you be reading out of? And usually people say the Bible, or they give me something. They say something.
You don't have to say anything.
And they don't have to, but they do. And if they don't, they tell me they're spiritual and they don't know what it is or where it comes from. They believe there's just something out there, and I take that as a different approach. But when people tell me I believe in God, and I look at the Bible, and they start talking to me about sins and the rules and commandments, you have to realize that if you look at Exodus and Deuteronomy,
I don't have to look at anything.
Daniel, please quit interrupting.
I'm not talking to you exactly.
Well,
we're all having a conversation, but I don't mean like your faith or your belief system in particular. But I am addressing a point that was made, which is that you said that she's not sinning. These are the rules that they made up. And if you read the Bible, this isn't true. Yahweh, who would be God to the Israelites, which is the person who handed Moses directly the 10 Commandments and said, "This is what you will do to abide by my will." So these sins are from God. These are God's words.
Because God didn't write the Bible; men wrote the Bible. You are proclaiming your opinion here on a book that you say is real and was written by God. But I'm telling you that the book is not real. It's just written by men who want to have power and control over people. That's all it is. But you are saying it in your opinion that, but it says in the Bible. But I'm telling you, maybe it says that in the Bible to you because you believe in the Bible. I don't. And so do a lot of other people.
But the biggest thing about who wrote the Bible is that the words in the Bible, especially when you look at Genesis, you look at Exodus, you look at Deuteronomy, these things started off, if I'm correct, if I believe I'm correct, they were handed down to Paul, the apostle, correct? By God. God told him what to write.
Paul wrote some bullshit in his book.
That's your belief that God actually told people to write this Bible.
That anti-Semitic cockwobbler.
When you want to have control and power over people, you're going to implement rules and laws and all that stuff. So they just wrote a whole big giant book of them.
Well, so to play devil's advocate, you would also write a book of rules if you want a successful society and a healthy society, right? And so the alternative perception of religion is that it was not necessarily made to subjugate and to control, at least not in a malevolent or evil manner,
That's why pork is illegal.
But it was written in a time where society needed some level of guidance, otherwise they would die, right? So taking the pork example, right? By today's standards, not eating pork or not eating any other example, whether you want to talk about shellfish, you want to talk about pork, they seem much more innocuous. But if you were to look at these in the uncivilized world, then if you were to eat spoiled meat, if you were to eat, food that was infested, you could then get sick and infect your entire community, and then everyone is dead.
Yes.
And so that rule could be put in place with good intentions. It could be put in place without the intention of complete control, slavery, and subjugation, like has been posited. It could be that over several years or centuries or however long it may have taken, that people observed that if you do these certain things, you survive. If you do these certain things, you do not survive, or maybe you have a lower chance of surviving. And so we're going to then build a storybook or build a collection of stories around this to then teach future generations what to do and what not to do to quote unquote live a good life, right? And so that possibility, even if the position that it was all man-made, all created by man, and none of it was informed by a supernatural deity or God, it could very well still be that the intent behind setting those rules was not just purely power and subjugation.
Which brings me back to my culture point. It is less about the actual book and substance itself. It is about the people that use it for their own goods. Islam is a very good example of this. When you read the Quran, it has a lot of parallels with the Bible in terms of its messaging, its goals, its morals, all great. But a lot of the culture issues you see among, especially in Middle Eastern countries, especially with their gender roles, their primarily their gender roles, their issues are like their social issues, especially. That is actually the product of something called Wahhabism, which was a book that was very patriarchal and very, treating others as other, that ended up being the primary ideology for most of the Muslim world. So just so people understand why it's bullshit, the Bible functions as these are the agreed books, these are the agreed writers, that's it, and it stays the same.
Yes.
Let me wrap this up.
What is the Quran itself? That's what I.
Well, the Quran is a book in the way, and then there's different other books.
Right, because it's their religion and their own idea of their own Bible, correct? Correct.
I'm starting to get frustrated too. Can I finish my point, please, Daniel?
Yeah, go right ahead.
And this is a good learning experience for your listeners too, as well, because a lot of Americans actually don't know this about the Islamic faith. The way that theirs works is you have the Quran, which is ironclad. That is the book. But then you also have other books that were written by people who were connected to the Prophet Muhammad. You have people like fathers, daughters, sisters, brothers, sons, and there are books like that, and that's how you get very different types of Islam. You have ones where it's all about prayer through song and things like prayer through work and just like all these different things. Wahhabism is, to put it in a way people can understand, it was written by someone who is like the second husband, third cousin, twice removed, like that type of thing. But those ideas lent very powerful men to have a lot of control over society. Hence, why Wahhabism is what permeates through the Muslim world, whether you're Sunni or Shia.
Angela, you want to jump in?
So I like what you said, Zach, about, the Bible was written as sort of a guide, right? When everything was being established in religion, it's your guidebook for survival for your people, and sort of the guide of how you should live your life. My problem is there's no evolution in that. It's locked in irons, it's locked in time. And as our countries, as our humanity has evolved, there's no changing of the Bible. The Bible is what it is, whatever it was meant to be. It's not evolved at all. And it's sort of like the Constitution. Things have changed. Our technology, our knowledge, our history, everything has changed from the time that this basic canon was put down for people to understand. Okay, yeah, you shouldn't eat pork. You should probably do this or that. I don't know. I mean, it's hard again to surrender to something that rationally I can't wrap my head around. That it's not ironclad. Life is not like that. And that's where I'm still having trouble with this. I mean, if it would be great if the Bible was just sort of the guidebook to life, right?
It was the guidebook for a bunch of sheep herders living in the Fertile Crescent.
Right, and we're not there anymore. So
Right.
Does that mean that I don't want to be religious?
The founders did. To be clear, the founders did say that they wanted the Constitution to be rewritten every 15 years.
As it probably should be, just like there should be term limits and other things that aren't happening.
Yeah. But it's like, but I completely agree with your point, and I think, and you as someone who, generally, from what I've gathered, does not put a lot of stock in organized religion. You know God yourself. Who's to tell you that you can't worship Him in whatever ways that you feel right? And who cares? Like.
Well, that's sort of the take I've had on life. I mean, my grandfather was the mortician and the Baptist preacher in Kentucky, where the family grew up. And, he married him and buried him. And when they couldn't pay, basically, he took care of the funeral expenses for people.
The way to make money on both ends.
Yeah. But, the short and the long of it is that for me, I just can't surrender myself blindly. So you're right. I mean, I kind of do my own thing as long as I'm not hurting anybody else.
And those feelings are valid. It's hard to trust a big organization that asks you to submit, not all of them, but a lot of them, to submit that much of yourself. That is a very, that's you practicing self-care and boundaries. And for organizations that generally require you to not have boundaries with them, I think
my folks taught me to think for myself. You need to think for yourself, and you never want to surrender yourself totally to anyone else, because they're not always going to have your best interest at heart.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think that that's sort of the disconnect, right? I went to college all those years. I did science all those years. Everything I've steeped myself in has been a hardcore reality of results and numbers and reality, and, giving yourself to somebody that trust is a huge thing for me. I don't trust.
You learned what was good for you, and you learned what was not good for you, because there's no mistakes, there's no right and wrong, there's no epic failures. There's only two decisions you're going to make in your entire life: what works and what doesn't work. But you have to find out what doesn't work.
I'll say one more thing, and then I'll shut up.
I like hearing you talk, Miss Angela.
Yeah, don't shut up. I like what you're saying.
We bought our house from an elderly couple. I kind of jokingly said they were like a grandpa and grandma to us. They embraced us right from the get, and they are two of the kindest people you'd ever want to meet. And it was kind of funny because I reconnected with Cliff just a few months ago about something, and I told him that we were retiring in April, and he was so over the moon happy for us that we're going to be able to actually enjoy our house now and so forth. And I said something, and he said, that's good. I said, well, had I not made the decisions I did in life, I probably wouldn't have been able to buy the house. And I said, so it was smart to pay myself first and then, have something to live on. And he made me feel like a complete shit, and he didn't mean to, but he said, I always pay God first, and then I'm taken care of. And I was completely silenced when he said that. And I felt like a complete shit, because for me, my end run was tuck away the money while you can, while you're young enough to be able to do it, so you can hit your target goal of getting out of that job when you're ready.
Did he pay God or did he pay religion? Because God doesn't need money, so only religion does.
Well, so I will backtrack. He is very involved in I live in a very small podunk town. We call it Stocktucky instead of Stockbridge. It's a very small town, but it's a farm town. It's rural. It's a tight community, and people do things for each other out here. He's very involved in the local church, and they do great things for the community out here. And so when he said he pays God first,
right,
the physical financial part of it goes to the church,
right,
but the works that financial part kicks back to the community is God's work, if you will. It's his labor putting it in.
Yes, the effort they put in. Absolutely.
So we're circling a couple concepts that I think are important because they're really at the heart of what religion is or aims to do, at least from a non-control aspect, is these concepts of objective. Sure. These concepts of objective truth and objective morality. So more recently, there's been more of a rise in relativism, right? More people believing that anything could be morally good or bad, depending on the context, that there isn't necessarily an objective truth. Everyone has, quote unquote, their own truth and their own experiences and things like that. Yes, or their perception of the truth or what have you. The traditional religion, organized religion, has a different take, right? That there is an objective, 100% infallible and true reality, truth, and morality. Whether or not any particular religion is 100% right, I don't know if, I think even within, and I can't speak for really any religions outside of what I grew up as and kind of what I've experienced in passing, but I think that you do see a lot of deliberation and a lot of, trying to better interpret or understand religious teachings and things like that. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a religious person that proclaims that maybe you wouldn't be hard pressed. You'd be hard pressed to find a number of religious people that claim that they are 100% certain. Well, okay, so maybe
listen.
They all seem to claim that their religion is right and every other religion is wrong. But
sure.
If religion is correct, then how come there are so many?
Right, but then there's even on top of my religion is right and your religion is wrong, there is my interpretation of my religion is correct. And I think that that's where you see a lot more people fall off, that maybe they do believe that their religion, their texts are infallible and true, but they recognize that they themselves are still a human and that their perception of it may still be flawed. And again, I'm speaking for a number of people that aren't myself. But I wanted to turn this conversation to these concepts because I think that's what is at question here, is whether there is an objective truth and reality and morality, because then, Evan brought up a couple different examples, and there have been other examples brought up throughout the conversation. We've heard social issues, right, and sexual orientation and gender identity. We've talked about abortion. We've talked about, everything from eating different foods to dressing certain ways or having tattoos and dyed hair and, all of these different examples. I think the question that I want to pose to you all is, do you think, regardless of any one particular religion's stance on any of these issues, or any other issues for that matter, do you think there is a right answer? Is there a right answer that someone, even if none of the religions so far have gotten it, do you think that there is a right answer? And if so, does that change this conversation? Because then if one of these religions is right, let's take, the social issues, for example, then if they are right, then should that behavior, and now I'm not talking about hate, because there's a difference between hate and shaming, but then if you believe something to be objectively immoral and you see someone that you love doing that thing and you believe that it's going to make their life worse or make them suffer or what have you, are you then under any obligation, moral, spiritual, what have you, to say something or to shame them or to do something, right, even from a place of love? Because that's the difference that a lot of religious people will take. And it's
right, but if you're trying to prevent them from suffering, what in what world is trying to prevent suffering with causing suffering a effective solution? Like, you're a business.
Well, negative reinforcement, right? Negative reinforcement is
and negative reinforcement is effective in the short term, but that negative reinforcement for when you is part of it's the main reason why a lot of people my age, 24 and younger, view religion as antiquated.
Well, I think it's the sole use of negative reinforcement, maybe. I think that when paired with positive reinforcement, you see this in science too, right? If you're trying to condition animals and you use solely negative reinforcement, you're not going to get as reliable of training as if you use some combination schedule. It varies by animal, by behavior and whatnot. But
right, but I would also ask, what gives you the right to cause someone else's suffering just because you think that they will suffer? Because it's like that statistic that conservatives like throw around. Like, what was it? 20% of trans people end up committing suicide without ever realizing that it is their actions and the actions of society designed by them to make them feel other and excluded that causes them that. Like if you take the variable of suicide, risk of suicide in the alphabet mafia, instead of LGBTQ community, I'm gonna say alphabet mafia because that's what they use on the internet, and it comes off it comes off a lot easier. If you take what that number, and then you put the ones that have supportive parents and the ones that don't have supportive parents, the number of people who have supportive parents who commit suicide plummets to very small, to like 1, 2, 3%. It's so I don't think that and this is I think
you can't put all the blame.
It's very anti-American, I think.
You can't put all the blame on society itself, Evan, because those people allowed those people to get to them. You could call me a name all you want all day long, but since you don't hold any merit with me, and I never
right,
really
but if you live with these people, and these people are responsible for your well-being as a
you don't have to listen to them. You don't. You choose.
Are you going to tell me that a teenage girl who just came out to her parents as a lesbian in a Christian conservative household, and they are shaming her, they're taking her to church, they're sending her to conversion therapy. I think you are completely disregarding the fact that I'm talking there's a reason why most gay people don't that are in situations like that.
That's the way that you look at it, but it's not the way that I look at it.
I am looking at it from a case of statistics and facts.
Well, statistics aren't everything. But
they're worth more than feelings and anecdotal evidence.
If you want to listen to, if someone wants to call me an asshole all day long, they can all they want, but that doesn't mean I have to take it to heart. I can choose to say, you can say whatever you want to. I'm
is
going to go on
being
about
an
my
asshole a critical part of your existence that has been demonized by an organized faith for well over millennia?
What's that again? I didn't hear you.
Is you being an asshole an integral and unchanging part of your existence that has been shamed, ostracized, and in many cases, just in this country alone, murdered for being an asshole? I'm going to answer for you. No. You are being an asshole is a product. I'm an asshole. And is a product of this is a product.
You don't have to be an asshole.
Very true.
So
very true.
To play devil's advocate, Evan, though, I think that there is a large sect of people who would describe sexual orientation as something much more complicated than just an unchanging biological reality.
There is a gene that they discovered 8 years ago. The gay gene. If it's turned on, you're gay.
No, that's not necessarily.
I don't believe that's
if you
true.
want to be gay, it's because you want to. Because this is the feelings
it's
you
been
have.
that finding has been running around in liberal circles for years. It's just not talked about in religious and conservative circles because that
Evan,
goes against.
there was no, that's not true. There was an article that came out in 2020 that even Nature was posting that said that there was a massive genetic study that did reveal some genes that were correlated with sexual behavior and that had some linkages. It was a small percentage though, and it was a lot of crossover with other risk-seeking behaviors.
Right.
Though.
It doesn't matter to me who you love as long as
well,
you're loving someone.
Yes, and that's a separate question, though, from the basis of sexuality, right? The basis of what Evan was positing before was that being an asshole is a choice per se, and that being gay is not a choice. And what I am posing as, Daniel, please quit interrupting. It's been a consistent theme throughout this episode. I think that what I'm posing to Evan is that the alternative may very well be true, that homosexual behavior, that sexual orientation, that gender identity, that any of these issues, that we don't necessarily know how much of it is biological and societal, but that we do know that both play a role and that biology is not as simple as there is a gay gene or not. So I think the counter would be that if it is a behavior, which at least some of it is,
then why does
societally
true? If it was a behavior, I would posit though, why doesn't conversion therapy work? Because it doesn't. And most people who are gay that go to it will lie and act their way out of it, and then
to feel accepted.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either, Evan. I really don't. You need to be who you are and accept the fact. And if anybody else is trying to change you, that's their problem, not yours.
I think all I'm trying to get at is that even with these examples that are being tossed around as figured out,
I do want to read. Via, would you like to comment? Because you just posted a really insightful comment.
Which comment? The one that I just posted?
Yeah.
So I posted the article that I think I read this in, and I was under the assumption that, I don't want to get into the weeds about sexual orientation unless Say What Needs Saying really feels like it, but I was underneath the assumption that they've narrowed this down to, in particular, the X chromosome, and that they conducted studies where they were able to examine 140,000 regions of the DNA sequence on the X chromosome, and they narrowed down to 5, and you have to have a combination of these like specific 5 regions of the DNA sequence in the X chromosome to essentially activate it's something in the nucleotide that activates, and you can't deactivate it or even activate it. You can't this has nothing to do with scientists can't deactivate or activate this, and basically it makes you homosexual. It's going to make you homosexual.
Yeah, but they also activating it.
Let him finish.
What activates
it? They'd also stated that this also occurs in what they call environment, and in an environment, this happens in utero. So they've also stated that in certain regions, the mother who is in control of this controls the amount of testosterone that gets received to the child in utero. So this will manipulate the brain into what they call feminization or masculization of the brain. So even feminine and masculines on a sliding scale, not exactly designated to your birth sex. And through these several factors, they have been able to articulate that this will create homosexuality. It could create gender dysphoria. It could create, so when people say, I am born with certain parts, I don't feel like these parts are exactly matching what my brain is telling me. This is why these things occur. So this is explained, at least I think, through science, and even the critics have understood that this is to be true. And they have, I will say this, they have said that people can take sexual actions with people of the same sex, but if people aren't homosexual, they're not going to continue this. And if they do, we have terms for this in psychology that we can root back to trauma. But people whom will engage in natural homosexual relationships that aren't exposing type of trauma just because they're born this way. And we know this, again, conversion therapy, sexuality retreats. We've been down this road. We've tried to beat it, pray it, mace it, whatever you want to do it away, and it does not work.
You say it's explained, but just because you've read something in a book or it's science, Evan, does that explain it to you? Because it sure doesn't explain it to me. Because
I have a science background, so I was able to understand.
Well, and so I want to turn it over to Angela in a second because she's been waiting for just a minute. But I do want to point out before jumping, I do think that so I've read it's been a long time now, so take this with a grain of salt. I've read the studies that have been posted in the comments, and I think the one that the host of Its Views from the Arch was talking about, I think that in saying that it's settled or that something causes these behaviors or these identities, I think that it's an oversimplification of the results. I do think that the findings are more complicated than that, and that even again, even the conversations happening in regards to nature, like there is skepticism going on from other people in the scientific community as to how much we can really glean from these results. So we've gone on a bit of a tangent.
True, and the last thing I'll say on that is, even so, that whether or not homosexuality is a choice or not, who are you to shame and make someone suffer because you think what they're doing is wrong?
But that was the whole point of this question, I think, at the very beginning, is that if there is a objective morality, this is all hypothetical, but assuming there is an objective morality and homosexual behavior, since that's the example we're talking about, but you could sub in any other example that we've mentioned, if that is objectively morally wrong, and it will objectively send you to hell or to whatever your parallel destination for bad people is, I think at that point, the question that needs to be asked isn't as simple as what right do you have to cause suffering to other people. I think that it's more a question of
does it infringe on the other person's life, liberty,
no,
and pursuit of happiness?
I think the question is what are you willing, what is right to do for someone that you love if there is an objective truth and there is an objective morality. I'm not saying that whether it's for sexual behaviors or other behaviors that we've talked about, I'm not trying to make a claim that one way is right or the other.
I know, man. The only reason I have been so ardent on this is because while the neutral point of say there's an objective morality, it doesn't have to be this or that. The thing is that people who make that argument are usually and I'm not saying this is what you're doing, to be clear, but are usually doing it in bad faith to get someone who is for things that are morally good, like supporting, gay rights and abortion and things of that nature, and getting them in a got you, which is it's an argument that I've had religious people use against me that is generally kind of like they try under the veneer of neutrality they use it as kind of like a gotcha.
Sure.
So
sure, and so
their card,
right? So the more, I guess, the more innocuous example, maybe not innocuous, but less emotionally tinged or gotcha-esque example would be that that your brother or sister or mother is going to, with no good intentions whatsoever, steal from your neighbor just for the hell of it. Something that you as an individual in this hypothetical know is objectively morally wrong, that you believe goes against what you think objective morality is.
The answer to the question is yes, Zach. I would try to stop them in 1,000%.
Sure, and I'm not picking on you either.
I know, and I just want to be clear that within I've done a lot of debates on religion before, and again, my issue with it isn't not necessarily the question itself. It is not necessarily the answer to the question. It is the question itself, and that I just would recommend that going forward you try not to use corner questions like that, or use them in a way that sort of it's a bad faith argument. My apologies. I'm gonna shut up.
I think people with a bad faith I think people with bad faith can ask questions that people with good faith intentions can also ask, and I think it's still worth asking the question. Anyway, we've been going on a tangent.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry,
patiently
Miss
waiting.
Angela. I'm so sorry.
No worries. So, Zach, I think my memory is sketchy, as you well know. So, originally, your question was, if we decide that there's a religion, who gets to decide, right? I mean, because right now, just in discourse, it gets heated, and then whoever's the loudest person kind of takes the floor, and then everybody else kind of just sits for a little bit. Who's to decide what's the right religion, you know? I mean, just because it might be right for 16 people, I'm number 17 and it's not working for me. But to address something else that you said is that, you know, do you intervene when someone you love is likely to do something that's going to cause them harm, whether it's legally, morally, ethically, whatever? You know, touched on the hottest button issue, which is sexual orientation. I mean, I've always felt strongly that if you're the parent of a child who has come out, you have every responsibility to support that person, regardless of what your personal feelings are, because the society that we live in is not embracing. They will strip that child of everything that is good and right. So it is your responsibility as an adult, as a parent, as a loving parent to that child, to do everything you can for your child to have a good, safe, wonderful life. That's what we're supposed to do as parents. Zach, you know me better than anybody. I can be the biggest butthole in the world, and it's been sort of shelved as it comes from a good place. I have a tendency to be direct. It's something I've had to fight my entire working life, my adult life. I don't have time for bullshit, and I hate people who enjoy playing games. I would prefer to state it once, get to the point, and get on with it. If you don't have anything for me, cool. Say it and let's get on with it and let's go our separate ways. I will respect you more than to try to diddle me when my back is turned. So for me, I have a kind of a more open look at things, right? I don't give a fuck what you do with your life. Just don't fuck up mine or anybody I love around me. Yep. If you want to do what you want to do in your home, cool. Don't steal from me. Don't lie to me. Don't hurt my family. Don't hurt my property. And you can do what you want to do. You know, my husband was in law enforcement. He's a retired police officer, 35 years. And he has had every nasty, hateful thing said to him, threats made on lives, threats made on families' lives, because people can't hold their shit together and admit that they've done something wrong, right? Society's laws say you've done something wrong, but it's always that other person. So coming back to the whole religious thing, it's hard to, again, surrender to who gets to decide, right? Who gets to decide what one blanket covers our nation, because we're so many different people. We can come together and then we blow apart over the least little thing. When it's something this important, how can we possibly find one comfortable umbrella in which we can all reside? That's sort of what I was after, Zach. Sorry for the rambling.
No, you're good. And it's a good point, especially in a country as heterogeneous as the United States, right? It's one thing if you have a very homogenous population that all believes in the same God and the same religion and the same, right? Because at that point, for lack of a better phrase, enforcing your religious will or doctrine on this person is maybe perceived as less invasive because, well, you are all of the same religion, you are all of the same community and culture, and that's what you believe is right to be done. Whereas it gets more complicated in mixed and very heterogeneous populations like ours, where the act of, so to, I'm jumping around a little bit, but the counter argument or the devil's advocate argument to what you were saying in a more homogenous population may be that, well, the moral decay of a society being defined by whichever religion we're talking about in that society will inevitably be harmful to all of the individuals in that society. And so then the argument would be that, well, do whatever you want to do as long as it's not hurting me. but what time scale are we talking about? How long does it have to be before it potentially harms me or my family before it's justified to intervene, right?
Well, so that's where, Zach, I guess that's the thing where I'm sorry to interrupt, intellectually having trouble connecting, right? Because if this is sort of the generalized guidebook for which we should live life, it's really not, you're encroaching on laws again, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if we're saying that, I guess there has to be a level of common sense in rational thinking. I mean, you can't just go in and find one blanket solution for everybody, and then it starts to become a law. It's less about religion and living a healthy, moral, godlike life, for a lack of a better way of putting it. I'm sorry, I can't find the right words, but I think it's a fundamental thing, right? It's just be good people, be good human beings, quit being shits to each other about the littlest thing in the world. Agree to disagree, shake hands, and walk away. You know, it's just, it seems like something that's so basic and common sense. What right do I have to criticize somebody else about how they feel or what they believe in? You know, that's for them to decide. And I guess that's what I'm saying, when, as long as it's not hurting me or my family, yes, if someone comes to my front door in the middle of the night, they will be greeted with a shotgun blast in the middle of the chest. That's just how it works. I mean, you know.
Now, and I think in everything you just said, I completely agree with. The only thing my only snafu, frankly, is I know a lot of people that think the way you do. A lot of people that are Christian or not Christian to think the way you do. Except, and I'm not saying this is you, but I will say that those people also don't necessarily vote how they preach either. For people that are try to take away rights. Well,
and see, that's sort of the problem I have, right? And I'm going to be just beaten in the village square for what I'm about to say, because it's almost embarrassing. I refused to vote the last election, and I have kicked myself. I will not vote for somebody because I can't stand somebody else. And at this point in my life, you know, I feel like I'm now paying the price, along with just about every other American who has any sort of investments or anything for a job or a life or anything else. You know,
8 years. 8 to 10 years.
Yeah,
it takes 8 to 10 years for an economy to see the repercussions of
I pray to God I live
economic legislation.
See, this is the thing that I'm having problems with. I mean, I'm at the point in my life now. I'm retired. This is supposed to be the happiest time of my freaking life. And right now I am sweating bullets trying to figure out, are we going to lose our house? Are we going to have enough money? God damn it. I've worked my entire life and I've not hurt anybody in the process of doing that. I just want to be left alone. That's where I'm at in life. And it sickens me to see, you turn on the news every day. If you watch the local news here in Michigan, man, it's how many people got shot in Detroit, how many kids have killed other kids. It's, you know, it's just our country has gone to shit. People don't respect people.
I haven't watched the news in 4 years because all they show you is that garbage.
I will say we are. I don't mean to be a bit of a downer. I do feel like we are getting a little bit off.
Sorry.
Topic. No. It's not. Don't even apologize. I was a participant. I was quoting numbers to say, hey, like timeline wise, this kind of like 6 to 8 years, 6 to 10 years. It's kind of like I was talking about, like, it's a whole timeline, just like it was just me doing a slight dig saying this is the result of Republican and conservative economic policy, but that's neither here nor there. I'm sorry.
No, but I mean, it's truthful. Yeah. I mean, it's truthful. The price that's going to be paid to undo the damage that's been done. I don't know, 2 more years, what the hell's going to be left to work with, you know?
Not good.
I mean, that's the thing that scares me more than anything, you know.
Well, we're not going to see any change to bring it completely out of topic for a bit. We're not going to see that any economic changes that the Biden administration has put forward. We're not going to see for at least another 6 years.
We're not going to see anything good as long as we have politicians.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Back to the Bible.
Back to the Bible
Back
stuff.
to
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Back to God. Something I can identify with.
The only issue
don't know.
I had with the conversation, what was Arch was saying was, because it sounds to me like he believes everything he reads in a science journal or in the Bible, that's the truth, and that's just it.
Well, the
I
difference.
tend to believe that.
No,
We're all different.
no,
The
Dan.
science
The
journals
difference.
because they're peer reviewed and people actually
And
have to justify.
And the most important, and the most important is that I like, and I don't want to speak for Ark, but I'm sure he feels relatively similar. When I read something in a science journal, and then 5 years later, the new consensus is something different.
Right.
I change my opinion, and
Right.
that is the difference. I don't view science as gospel, because if science was gospel, science would never change. And science is
Right.
predicated on constant innovation and change. And there's very few things in science that are so settled that it's not even worth that. Like studies trying to disprove it are literally done by moneyed interests and think tanks.
That's the same thing what Angela was saying, was how can we live by a Bible that has never changed? But we have evolved as people, but the Bible doesn't, but they still want us to follow the same old Bible.
Hey,
So
Before we
Evan,
get
you got
too
something to
far
say?
off, I just want to give views from the Arch a chance to respond since he was talked about. Go ahead.
No, that's good. I'm gonna just kind of keep it on top. I think, and this is kind of what I was saying earlier. We have to get out of this. We can't not believe anything, right?
Right.
And so if you want to believe in God, that's fine. If you want to believe in whatever spirit or soul or whatever it is that gets you through the day, that is fine. But you do have to realize that we understand certain things about our world, and these things are objective and they're going to be constant. For example, if I throw my computer up into the sky, it will fall back to the ground. This is gravity. We understand when gravity works. We understand when it doesn't work. We know that if I crash my car into a brick wall, the car has stopped. My body will continue at 60 miles an hour until it is stopped. This is a constant. These things are true. So when you tell me, well, since you've read it in a book, you just believe it. Well, this is true, but also these things have been repeated time and time and time and time. And when they cease to be true, because science has changed, psychology has changed, we reevaluate. I'm of the understanding that at any time, the current scientific belief or method for something that we're looking at could be wrong. They could say, hey, we were wrong. We apologize. This happened a lot actually please, dear God, I don't want to get off onto this topic. It's just the best example I can think of. This happened a lot during COVID. The science was wrong. They corrected, they readjust. They said, this is what we recommend. Here's what we have researched. Here's what we have found. We're sorry we were incorrect. This is new to us. This is not.
I feel heard.
It's just how science works. But religion to me and faith, these things don't work this way. I wouldn't say faith. Let me dial back.
No, faith is significantly more malleable.
Yeah,
So
I would agree.
I want to jump on something that you're mentioning, views from the Arch, because I think that while I agree to an extent, so there's a couple people that are new. There's maybe some people listening. For those people that don't know, I'm a neuroscience PhD student right now. That's not meant to be an appeal to, authority or anything like that, but just
I didn't know that.
But just so that you can kind of get a sense of where my perspective's coming from. I think that while a lot of what you said is true, and that there are differences between scientific journals and the changing of the content of those journals based on new evidence and things like that, I think that even the framework that you put it in, I think is a little too forgiving. I think that even the way that you described it, there are a lot more political motivations and corruption in science. There are a lot of other interests in science that go on. And with COVID, I think we saw a lot of that as well. I think that we saw a lot of not just, well, they were wrong, we saw new evidence, and then things evolved as we went. I think that some of what went on was, well, we exposed some potential corruption or some potential bad methodology or some bad extrapolating from one study that is a bad model to approve a broad masking policy or whatever else, just bad science going on as well. And I think that it's important to see the distinction between religion and science, because you said early in the show that they serve kind of different roles, and that they can, I don't want to misquote you, but something to the effect of them serving different roles and having different domains. And I think that's true, but just like we were talking about there being potential manipulation and corruption and control in religion or politics, I think that it's unwise to assume that that isn't there in science as well. I think that it's not necessarily the norm, just like I don't think it's the norm in religion or the norm in law enforcement or the norm in all, like, you know, I think that
law enforcement. I'm keeping my mouth shut. I'm sorry.
I mean,
science only seems to speak when they're allowed to speak by those who back them financially.
Not only the financial backers, but other scientists in the consensus as well, right? I've talked with a lot of people that have been shut down by other people in their field,
yes,
because they found the quote-unquote wrong result. They found the wrong result, the things that are not allowed. Well, COVID, you see this in climate science a lot. Yeah. You see this in any of the big areas that are deemed to have a foolproof consensus.
Right.
And
I feel like as far as climate's concerned, I feel like 97% broadly is pretty. We're not talking about like 60% of like of experts in the field agree and 40% disagree. Like,
but even that stat was manipulated over time. Like, that stat was initially taken from a study. I don't remember all the specifics. I mean, it's been a long time.
The wildfires in Europe that have never existed before, like in human history, I think beg to differ, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, I'm not claiming that there's no evidence whatsoever for climate change, just that there are studies that have been done, there are studies that are attempted to be done that show patterns or aspects of climate change that go against what people consider to be the consensus or the norm, and that things like that 97% stat are tossed around as almost scientific dogma to convince people, similar to a lot of the concerns about religion. And again, not to say that many climate scientists don't agree that climate change is happening or that climate change has a negative impact, or, you know, any of these things. That can be true at the same time that the slogan is being used as a dogmatic, manipulative approach as well.
Or climate manipulation as well, when they change climate in order to suit their needs, like they did back in the Vietnam War, where they were changing the climate so they could know when they could drop bombs and stuff like that. So they had to change the weather.
Well, and all that to say,
I'm sorry, just to say Evan, you weren't here for that. You weren't born yet.
All that just to say that. I think it's important to take data and science into consideration with a lot of these things. But I think that it's also important to be skeptical and have a grain of salt there as well.
Yeah.
I agree
in any case, we've been going for quite a while now, and last episode took me forever to edit. And so,
you poor bastard.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
say goodbye to your Saturday, my guy.
Right. So I'm gonna impose an arbitrary time limit and cut us here. I think we've had a really good conversation. I really enjoyed the discussion, and I think that it got heated and emotional at times, and people have very wildly different views and beliefs on a lot of this. Like many of these topics, we're not going to reach an agreement with one podcast discussion. We're not going to solve these problems, so to speak. The point of the podcast isn't to do that. My goal is not to change any of your minds. You know, I pushed back on some of you, not necessarily because I disagreed with you, but I think that the value of these conversations is to look more deeply at your own positions and why you hold those positions, and then be more comfortable talking about them with everyone else. And so I think that everyone did that today, and it's inevitable that when we talk about topics like this, that things may go off the rails here and there. So that's all right. And I appreciate us being able to pick the train up and put it back on the rails. So thank you all for that and for being able to have this conversation. I'll ask one more time, just because we are still new, and there's a couple people here who haven't joined before. If you don't mind, if you enjoyed the conversation you had tonight, please tell your friends and family about it. Spread the Linktree and website link so that we can get some more people in these conversations. The more different perspectives we have, the better, in theory, the better these conversations will go, and the better able to combat our preconceived notions and cognitive biases we'll be able to be. But that aside, I want to turn the floor over to you all one more time and let anyone who wants to have a chance to say what needs saying. So if there's anything that you think we didn't cover tonight that you would like to, that you want to briefly go into, if there's something that maybe we did cover but didn't quite hit on something that you wanted to talk about while we were here, or if there's something that, we maybe you want to bring additional attention to, whatever it may be, the floor is yours. Take the time to go ahead and say what needs saying. We'll start with Angela. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. It was a pleasure. I listened to this. I joined this. This was special. I actually put it on a calendar so I wouldn't forget it. I am always willing to learn and listen to other people. I think that's the only way you ever really grow and develop empathy and understanding for other people. And I'm sorry if I'm not exactly the most eloquent speaker. I tend to get a little bit on the emotional side. Zach knows that about me. I cry at the drop of a hat. But having said that, I really did enjoy the conversation this evening. I think that the only way that we can continue in a society where we respect each other is to share ideas and thoughts and actually take the time and listen instead of just running over each other with what we think. Because at that point, nobody really learns anything. It's just frustrating. So again, thank you, everyone. I greatly appreciated your time this evening.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Angela. Anyone else want to jump in? We can do, yeah, okay, Evan?
Yep, really not much I feel like I need to say. I think that the conversation was very good. I enjoyed myself. I got a chunky piece of content for my YouTube, for in the coming weeks after Zach is done and reaped his benefits, of course, not to step on any toes. And I've networked with a couple of folks, and I think it was a fun opportunity. But as far as the actual conversation itself, broadly speaking, I think we relatively did cover just about everything that I thought was important. There are some things maybe that weren't covered, but it's I feel like broadly speaking, we didn't really. I feel like despite some of the antagonism over the conversation, I think that broadly speaking, I can say for at least four of us that I think we were just, it was less of disagreements, disagreements in ideology. I think most of us are relatively on the similar side, all things considered. Maybe not completely on what we personally believe, but certainly just stuff where organized religion bad. I would hope maybe doing a round two on this conversation, maybe bringing in some more fundamentalist people. I don't know, give the people present on the call a little bit a better opportunity to flex their intellectual chops, if you will. But, yeah, I don't really. I thought the conversation was good. I enjoyed myself. I don't have a migraine like I do when I normally talk about stressful things, which is a really good sign. There's friends I love going on their podcasts and stuff. I love them. I love supporting them. But by God, I hate talking about certain topics with them because I just want to blow my brains out. My head hurts after we're done.
Yeah. No, well, I appreciate that this could be a little different. And I think that, like you said, we may have there was a little bit of antagonism here or there. There was a little bit of, arguing.
But that was less antagonism and more just being devil's advocate for the sake of being devil's advocate.
Sure. Well, and even the rest of it, I think that one of the other things, so I said at the beginning pre-recording, and I say this each episode or something similar to it for everyone listening that wasn't able to hear it before. There's a reason that I emphasize that this platform is meant to be a compromise between free speech and civil discourse, because I think that it's really, I really don't believe that either one in itself is really productive for a conversation about these types of things. Civil discourse more so than free speech, because free speech can go off the rails much more easily if people are very really dive into the uncivil and whatnot. But I think outside of that, there are emotions tied to these issues. There are very strong feelings and language that comes with that. And, it's, I think, impossible to...
The difference between free speech and civil discourse is how acceptable saying fuck you to someone is.
Right. Yeah. And you have to let that come out a little bit. I think that if you have too structured and too, overly focused on entirely civil discourse, and anything that goes against that, you're immediately out of the conversation, or you're immediately... I think that's an unrealistic standard to hold ourselves to.
And let's be real, those debates are really boring to watch.
That too. Yeah.
They're like it's. I've seen some debates where it's like the moderator is coming in right as someone's about to go for the kill shot, and I'm like, come on, dude! Like you just whatever.
Yeah. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you joining, and I'm glad that you don't have a headache afterwards.
No, genuinely, because it's the type of thing that only thing that can fix it is a nap, and I don't want to go to bed yet.
All right. Well, on that note, Daniel, or the host of It's Views from the Arch, do either of you want to jump in? Anything left to say?
I was waiting to see if he jumps in. If he wants to jump in.
You can go ahead, Daniel, if you'd like.
Yeah, no harm, no foul. Not angry at anybody. Didn't mean to make anyone angry if that's what I did. But I was just saying what I needed to say. That's all. That's all I was trying to do. And I know I got stomped on a couple of times for interrupting, but others were interrupting as well, except only I was the one who was being labeled as being an interrupter. So, but, if you brought me here to stand up and say what I need to say, that's what I'm going to do. And whether you like it or not, whether you think it's the truth or not, I'm still going to do it, as all of us should be able to do. I agreed with a lot of points that Evan said. I agreed with a lot of points that Angela said. The Arch guy, not so much. Everything was science and religion there. And if he's so against religion, but sure does believe in the Bible. But that's up to him, because that's his choice to do it. So, but I enjoyed the conversation. I like listening to all points, because when we're learning things, that means it's something good. But if we just close ourselves off to everything else out in the world, we only believe that what we believe is the truth, then, that's basically saying what religion is trying to tell us to do. They want us to believe one particular way. And there's not that, because we're all different people. We all have different feelings. We all perceive the world differently. We all have different perception of the world and just our own well-being. So, but I was glad to be here. I was glad to listen to everybody. And I'm probably not going to be invited back again, but that's okay.
No.
But I'm okay with it, because again, I don't get angry when other people say to me or about me.
You're too good of a guest to not be invited back, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. It all depends on your perception, or when you get off this podcast and go, man, that guy really was an asshole. but even we all have opinions, and as we all know, opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, but we do have the right to voice our opinions, and I think this is a great platform to do that. And I thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to come here on this platform and have this discussion with everyone else. I really did enjoy myself, and I liked what everyone said, and I'm glad you felt the passion and to have faith in yourself enough to say it, because a lot of people don't. They just sit quiet the rest of their lives, and that's a shame. They should really get out there and say something. So I was glad to be here, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you joining, and I echo your sentiment that these conversations are really how we reach a closer approximation of the truth. You can't get anywhere with closed-mindedness, and even if your opinion doesn't change, that's fine. It at least gets a little more nuanced. It gets a little more refined. It gets a little more, a little closer to the truth because of these kinds of conversations. And so I appreciate having you here, and would love to have you back if a future topic piques your interest. So for that, yeah, go ahead, host of It's Views from the Arch. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say thanks for having me here. It's been a great conversation. I'm going to clarify, I do not believe in the Bible. But it has been a good conversation. I definitely know that I can come off pretty strong, especially on this topic. I was hesitant to take this particular panel. Um, I think the only thing I would leave people with is um, do your best to try to find the truth of what you are doing or what you're reading. Um, take things in their entirety, take things, um, dig into things. Don't just believe what somebody is telling you. But overall, just always try to be truthful and honest with yourself about why you're doing something, and also with about what you are doing. That is kind of what I usually boil things down to. Is as long as you're acting in honesty or you believe you are, we can always have a decent and civil conversation. But no, thanks. It's been a great podcast. I've definitely been able to link to to make connections, and it's been good. So I look, as usual, say what he's saying. I look forward to the next panel you got. I'm sure I'll be here. But no, thank you for having me. It's been great.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
is it okay if I say one more thing?
Sure. Go ahead.
I always try to tell people, don't judge other people. Before you judge someone else, take a self-inventory of yourself and think about all the crap you've been through in your entire life. And then look at that other person and think, you know what? They've probably been through some crap too. Then bite your tongue and walk away. Because we don't have the right to judge each other.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And to end on a religion note, since this conversation was faith versus religion, I mean, pretty much most religions will echo some parallel to that sentiment, right? Let he without sin cast the first stone and all of that. And so I think it's a worthy message to end on, and one that hopefully, regardless of people's religion, hopefully can bring people together at least a little bit more. So in any case, thank you all for joining. Hopefully this conversation was valuable in some way.
Poor
for you.
KR.
All right. So everyone take care. We'll call it a night there. Thanks.
Recording
Cool,
stopped.
cool. All right. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. I do
Nah, you don't
try
have to
to.
apologize. I get it.
Wow.
Hey, the next time, could we do something on Batman and Superman instead?
It'd be a good one to do at some. I have thought, so I think once we get a little bigger, I would love to do a little more innocuous topic to kind of lighten things up and kind of change things up a little. But
Yeah, the heavy shit's a bit of a gut punch from time to time, my dude.
yeah,
We should
no,
do
I feel
something
it.
like-
Now,
What's
if you want to see a bloodbath, do Apple versus Android. I'll come
man.
I'll come stocked, ready to prepare Android.
That'd be an
Can't
interesting
stand
one.
Apple. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah. Can we
Alright.
can we do gummy bears or popcorn at the movies? How about that?
Views,
go with popcorn on that one.
I hit you up on Instagram.
Yeah, he's on our website now, Evan. We've got him.
Nice.
So I've been in the process, slowly but surely, trying to form a free speech and civil discourse network. And so he's the first edition. It's
Nice.
Views from the Arch. Yeah.
I would submit my podcast to you, but I feel I feel like I'm definitely there on the free speech, probably not on the civil discourse.
What is your podcast called?
It's called I Can't Shut Up Unless You Tell Me to.
I like it.
It's good, right?
Good
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, I used to have like 6 or
Pretty
7
original.
podcasts, and then I just kind of consolidated under the one because I'm like, this is the only one I really like to do. It's basically
Do what you love.
It's I throw interviews under that, monologues, talking about video games, anything. It's a bit of a catch-all, but like I do sometimes comment on. I do
Perfect.
comment on political stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a wide range, so you're able to cover any topic that you want to do, which is great.
The live streaming and stuff is kind of more of what I'm interested in right about now personally. I don't know. I enjoy it.
Where do you live stream it at?
YouTube.
Oh, do you have any problems with that?
Not at all. I actually moved over from Twitch. I actually like it a lot. I actually like YouTube a lot more for what I need. Like, I thought, like, I like the extensions and the point system. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy here. I'll actually,
You get striked for it ever?
No, well, I mean, you do, but it's you actually, like, my thing is that I try to keep, So I'm only around 3,000 subs at the moment. So I'm still lucky enough to be small enough where it's like nobody's gonna like do a concerted effort to like nix my shit.
Yeah, but
Hey, I
somebody
don't know.
listening
We
to
had
you.
Echoplex come after us,
They're
and
listening.
we're like, we've got less than 100 subs on YouTube, and we had Echoplex come after us for a little while.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I just posted a link to the current live stream right now, but you can.
That's the man trying to bring you down. You know how it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's like for me, like YouTube, like really is. I generally live within the copyright, and when I do reaction content, I earn my fair use chops. Like I usually will try to quadruple the watch time of whatever the hell it is I'm watching, at the very least, double it minimum. So I generally do a pretty decent job in that regard, but
3,000 people, man. That's 3,000.
YouTube Shorts.
2009. Yeah,
YouTube
it
is
works.
not
You know?
bad.
You got to know how to work it. And apparently,
like-
you're doing a good job at it.
Like say what he's saying. I'm telling you, and you too, Daniel, because you're doing stuff too. YouTube Shorts, those vertical like 15 to 60-second videos.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll if you'd like, if you let me share my screen real quick, I could freaking show you my dashboard. Like my normal, like on a good video that's like normal proportion will get 50 views maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm lucky, really lucky even, and I time it right. The shorts, I can fart 7 of those out, and at least 4 of them are gonna get over 1,000.
People
Right.
like a quick fix, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it was the
well-
same with Reels when we did them.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
the YouTube Shorts like UI that they have done is really good. I got to be honest. Like the YouTube algorithm, I feel like, and here's the thing: it's part of the reason I moved over to live streaming on YouTube is because when you live stream, the watch hours from the live stream contribute to your partnership. So I, looking at the statistics from this live stream, I have had an average of anywhere between 1 to 3 concurrent viewers. An average view to rate is I've been going for about 2 hours of 45 minutes, and I have an average view duration of like 7 minutes and 40 seconds with 17 views. That is going to translate to in part of the problem is for the first half of the recording, I realized that it wasn't picking up the audio, so which is why nobody was freaking watching for most of it. Which is like whatever. So it's like I'll still more to the reason.
Hit record, man.
yeah. But it's this is going to translate to approximately 2 maybe 3 hours of watch time.
And that's good. That's exactly what you want. The problem with shorts is, what does that tell you about shorts? Everyone has a short attention span.
Right, but the thing is, like that's a metaphysical. I'm talking about just from the business standpoint. When it comes from the business standpoint, the business standpoint is that I have viewers that come in that subscribe because of my shorts, and so it's like you use the shorts to gain the subscriber base, and just by virtue, and the thing is that the larger you get on YouTube, it has a cascading effect. Like it just means more people are put in front of regularly, and those people are more it's more likely to end up in their feed, which makes them more likely to actually click on your shit, and it's just a cascading effect.
Do you feel the shorts are actually bringing them in to watch you on the longer episodes?
Sometimes, I mean, it's a standard sales funnel. Like 1,000 people,
Right.
1,000 people, like 1,000 people like view it. 10 people, like 100 people will maybe subscribe. Or 1,000 people will like see it on their feed. 100 will probably like click on the actual video. 10 of them will subscribe. 1 of them will convert to like a standard viewer.
Yeah, it's like a potluck type thing. Sure.
Yeah, but
You just never know.
It's a numbers game, and honestly, at the end of the day, and Zach understands this.
Here's my question:
It's a consistency thing.
Are you getting paid for it?
No, but I have a very good job with very good pay and benefits, and
because you're doing it because you love doing it.
Right, and I've been doing this since summer of 2019.
Right.
And while growth was molassesly slow in the beginning, I am up on average 100 subscribers, 200 subscribers every month now.
Well, then here's what I say: I applaud you for doing it just because you want to do it. because you want to educate people because you feel as though they need education.
My videos
and
are
you wanna
not
bring it to
my
them.
video. Most of my videos are dumb shit. Like this is gonna like
Yeah,
this,
but people are
I hate
watching.
to cut you guys
Yeah.
off, but I gotta go so that the recording can start downloading on
Oh.
my
All right,
on my
guys.
end. So
yeah. I'll see you guys.
I'm gonna
later.
cut it. I'll talk
Be
to you
good.
guys
Don't
later.
do any
Take
stupid
care.
shit.
Talk to you later. All right, that was fun. That was good. That was a joy. That was a joyous occasion. What the fuck? What just happened? Jesus. Hold on. Let me just hide this real quick. There. That's better. That was fun. I like that. That was a good time. All things considered. Let's shit, I got 13 minutes. Let's hop back into some Dead Cells for the time being.